What's going on, my love? So today I want to discuss why it's important to overly communicate when you're healing. So this can be when you're newly dating someone or when you're in a relationship and you're trying to heal some past issues or regain trust with one another. So let's dive in. All right, so first of all, we like to hear and use words like PTSD and triggers. So let's just talk about that for a second. I'm going to give you a very basic explanation of what PTSD is, okay? PTSD is basically the body's reaction to a stimulus that reminds you of a trauma you've experienced, okay? It doesn't have to be the same exact thing happening. It could be something very similar. So, for instance, I was in a car accident, and when I would hear broken glass, it would really startle my soul, okay? My body physically would like clam up. I would like it would really disturb my soul because it the memories basically go towards your nervous system, and your nervous system goes into fight, flight, or freeze mode. Freeze is not talked about enough. We do fight or flight all the time, but freeze mode, okay? And so when you are in a relationship, there can be some triggers that startle your soul the same way, and then you enter back into fight, flight, or freeze, okay? And so fight is always it is what it sounds like no, I'm picking a fight with you because this thing happened, and then you can be in a fight with someone and having no idea what the problem is. Or flight, which I was great at a fuck you, fuck this, fuck it in my 20s because I was having very similar reactions to something I felt would end the same way with a different person, or was very reminiscent of the same thing. And so fuck it was easier than talking about it, okay? It was a safety mechanism for myself. And there were a lot of conversations I think I didn't have with good men that I was dating that I just didn't know how to have. It was just easier to protect myself and to exit. Or freeze. Freeze can be not talking to someone. Freeze can be, like, oh, I'm just gonna leave. I'm gonna, not deal with this right now, okay? It's also a bit of fight, but the freeze up is kind of like I'm just not going to deal with this right now. So those are some reactions to your body reacting to past trauma, okay? So over communication is great, especially I do this with my couples when they have hit a period in their relationship where they're trying to heal but having a very tough time. This is also something that I recommend people do if there has been some self-work done on single individuals, okay? So for instance, I don't recommend this particular step until you've done some self-work, some therapy, some counseling to cover why you were attracting such bad interactions, okay? If we're talking about relationships, because that's what we're talking about. I'm not talking about car accidents. I'm not talking about PTSD from war. We're talking about relationships, okay? And so if you've done the self-work, you've gone to therapy, you've done all that good stuff, right? And now you're dating better. You're dating better quality of people. You feel better about yourself. This is something you can implement with someone that you feel is a healthier mate for yourself, okay? Because we get into this very thin line of, is it my PTSD or is my gut going off again because this is a similar situation? What I say to the single people who are dating is you have to use your logic when you are getting back into the dating world, even if you have done the self-work, okay? Logically, if his phone rings, it doesn't mean it's another woman, okay? It's logical. If his phone rings and he constantly has to get up from the table to take the phone call, that's where the logic comes in, okay? If you call him, he doesn't answer his phone past 10 o'clock. Okay, so that's a little bit different from just the initial reaction of, oh, his phone's ringing, this is another chick. Okay, so we have to be logical while we're trying to heal, and believe it or not, sitting through your emotions and your reactions, having that reaction, that PTSD reaction, is how you get over having PTSD. You have to learn a phone ringing doesn't mean it's another person. So even people who experience parental loss, they can have PTSD reactions when a phone rings because the last time the phone rang, it was something bad, okay? So working through your emotions and logic when you can't figure out, are you having a PTSD reaction, or if you are having, if your gut is trying to tell you this is the same old bullshit, okay? When you do self-work, it's really, really important to find out what those red flags are. What were the red flags that you missed? What were some of the things that you kind of turned a blind eye to, or the lies that you believe? Not to beat yourself up, but sometimes it's just simply we didn't know better, so we couldn't do better. So it's important that when you do your self-work, you go over the red flags, you go over what were the signs that you missed, you go over your particular set of beliefs to why you kept dealing with a bad person or mates that aren't that good for you. Now, once you have done that and you start dating, it is perfectly okay if you're dating someone that is healthy to say, I've done some self-work, I've been to some therapy. These are the things that, kind of don't work well for me, okay? And if you're the person receiving these things, make sure that you're willing to deal with something that you know you can deal with. For instance, someone saying, I have an issue if someone takes all day to call me back, okay? A text message, hey, saw your missed call, working right now, finishing up with a client, call you when I get to the car. And they call you when you get to the car. It's a very reasonable request. Someone says, I need you to call me every single hour of every single day because I will then know you're not cheating on me. It's not the healthy lane we're talking about, okay? So make sure that if you're giving these requests or if you're receiving these requests, that these are reasonable requests, okay? This is not a green light for everybody just to run around and try to control people. This is a healthy interaction between two grown, healthy, healing adults. So you have to be healed, but healing adults, okay? So make sure your requests are reasonable. Make sure the request that you are getting are reasonable. Now, couples, once they have gone through a lot of changes, and changes that are not addressed usually cause a lot of chaos. If the changes are not addressed and the lifestyle and the actions are not adjusted, usually causes a lot of chaos, and that's when couples run into issues, okay? So when couples run into issues, everything becomes defensive. It's, who you talking to? Why are you talking to me like that? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Well, I didn't do this or that because this changed, or you don't like me anymore because I had a baby, I had your child, and now you don't treat me the same, or, you got pregnant and you don't give me sex, or you took the second job and now you don't have time for me. And so everything becomes this battle of defense and offense, and then it becomes this the trust breaks down, okay? So when that happens and couples are healing, I recommend over communication as well. Hey, I'm explaining this from this point of view, so you're not thinking that it's something else. It is actually this thing, okay? And sometimes people are feeling like, no, that's not what you meant. I know this. And it's like, no, this is why over communication is important. I'm asking you this question because I'm trying to make dinner plans for us next week. Some people have a tough time just asking a question. Some people like to go, what was that doctor's appointment for? Or what was it? And they can't just say, oh, well, I know somebody that just had that same issue and you should ask the doctor this, or see if the doctor is certified in that, so that, we can find out for sure if you're okay. Because a lot of times people do not clearly communicate their reasoning behind saying something, and their expression of concern comes out or is received as that person not seeming intelligent enough, or not knowing what they're doing, or incapable. And sometimes expressing the reason behind what you're saying, why you're asking, or what you're doing, or how you're doing it, allows somebody an understanding, oh, you do care. So I'll give you an example. One of my children, he does videography work. He uploaded the video vertically and not horizontally. And I said, why is it like this? And he told me, these squirrels out here chasing each other. He told me that he couldn't upload it that way, and that this is a preview, and that the real one would be uploaded vertically. And me expressing myself, I had to pause. This is my sweet child. And I had to explain to him, I don't want people thinking your work is this quality, because this looks like you don't know how to present or turn footage, and it looks bad. And I know your work is great, so I don't want you presenting poorly when people are not going to look and say, oh, well, maybe he didn't know how to turn the, maybe he couldn't turn the footage. He's going to put out something later in a week or so that's horizontal. No, people are just going to pass, and they're going to think that you don't know what you're doing. And I'm saying this because I don't want you to lose business, and I know you're talented. And so over explaining was a better route than the back and forth that we had of attitude, because initially he was defensive. And I'm trying to figure out why he's defensive when I'm just trying to care. So when someone is presented with just trying to care and they're getting attitude back, people tend to stop caring. And that's when a lot of couples go south as well. And so over communication is great in explaining yourself and your triggers when you're newly dating. It's great when you are trying to heal a relationship that's been going for a while. It's great, period. Just so people understand, okay? There is a difference between over-explaining to clearly communicate and the need to over-explain to be understood to people who are not going to necessarily understand as a trauma response. But when you're dealing with someone who cares, over-communicating is to clarify so that you don't run into any more head bumps or bangs with the wrong person. And you also have to really be clear about who you're dating. So I'll give you guys an example. It was a guy that I was dating, and he was telling me about a previous relationship. And I'm like, oh, okay, I understand. And something basic, like I said, well, what are you doing next Tuesday? And he was like, well, see, that's what I was talking about. I just told you I dated somebody, and they were always in my schedule. Like, they always wanted to know what I was doing and where I was doing. I was like, whoa. That's not the level of healthy dating that I'm talking about. That person needed a bit more work, okay? You have to be mindful that you are not entertaining the wrong type of person, and that someone is willing to receive you healing with kindness and care as well, okay? Again, make sure that your requests are reasonable, okay? It is not the type of suggestion for me to say, you got to call me at every hour so I know you're not cheating. I need a FaceTime. I need you to scan the room. I need you to look under the bed. I need to know that, no. That person needs to heal a little bit more. Allow them to do so out of your presence. But if someone says, hey, I would like a call back in a reasonable amount of time. That's it. That's basic phone adult etiquette. Okay. That's it. It's that simple. Those are more reasonable requests. So when you are the giver, you are the receiver, make sure that you're dealing with somebody that also wants to work on the relationship, because I am in full agreement that relationships don't end or they don't work because people don't try. They tend to not work because only one person is trying. So make sure that you are trying with someone who is willing to try with you. You all have a wonderful day. To the next video. If there's anything I can help you with, my contact information is below. And thanks for watching.